Welcome to the Aegance Offscript Podcast, where we talk to industry leaders who share their stories, insights, and lessons, unfiltered and unscripted. I'm your host, Lawrence, and today I'm joined by Richard Oellermann, co-owner of Southern Cross Solutions, a South African cloud and DevOps firm helping teams modernize how they host, monitor, and scale software. Their work spans containerized hosting, managed private cloud built with infrastructure as code, a managed monitoring layer called Observatory, and DevOps SRE services. Richard, great to have you on.
Great to be here. Thanks for inviting me, Lawrence.
Absolute pleasure. For the sake of the listeners and viewers, do you mind giving us a little bit more context around Southern Cross Solutions, what it is that you guys do, areas of operations, etc.?
Yeah, definitely. So we are a group of avid software developers by heart. That's who we are, and saw the need of hosting and to modernize hosting, and especially in a South African context, providing services to entrepreneurs and small to medium enterprises, especially establishing themselves in the cloud space. Whether it's through a very small offering of our clients or moving into the bigger enterprise space. So since by heart we are software developers, we like to journey with our clients to build out their offering, and as they grow, we also grow both in technical depth and in our hosting experience. So we offer traditional hosting and, of course, the modern contemporary hosting of containerization, and also in the bleeding edge, which would be into Unikernels and building up to a platform as a service. So but that is still more or less in active development and experimentation, how it performs on our infrastructure as a service.
So you're both a co-owner and hands-on technologist. How do you define your role day to day between strategic direction for the company and technical execution?
Yeah, that is an excellent question. So on the ground, I am the platform engineer, so very hands-on into maintaining the infrastructure as a service. So we are using OpenStack there. So I'm the primary operator of the platform, and mentoring others in the team to help maintain it, to help grow it. And from a strategic perspective, we believe in the small team concept. So each member of our team has specific strengths that we can harness and place them in a specific team, which might be their primary focus. And our team size is very between 3 to 5 individuals that have a focus on whether it's the monitoring side or the hosting side or the professional services side. And that is our strength as a company, is that we can easily then quickly change focus as clients might need a specific service to be deployed within a few days, and then we can quickly switch focus and harness others into a different team for a day or two, and then they can switch context again to their primary focus.
And what would you say has guided your vision for how Southern Cross should evolve over the next few years?
Yeah, what has guided us is very much our the local economy. So just having a look at how much cloud grabbing is happening on the international stage. So international companies investing into South Africa, building data centers and attempting to build out their hosting infrastructure and hosting presence. And that has guided our vision to establish specifically for the entrepreneurs and the small to medium enterprises to offer them a competitive local cloud solution that is tied to the rand, because often although one goes to competitors, one might pay in euros or pounds or US dollars, and that's definitely challenged a few of our clients in how they can budget month to month depending on how the exchange rate is. And that is where, from the background that we come from, in 2017 when we established the company, we saw the need, and one of our bigger clients that we were helping and offering a solution to, and then growing with them and with our new clients to establish their cloud presence. And since we are all developers at heart, to also gain more technical experience and technical depth in a whole collection of tools.
I'm assuming there's a want and a need to scale the business and to grow your footprint, but often there's a bit of a tension that arises in the space that you're in around business scale versus technical depth. How do you navigate that challenge?
Yeah, that is a great question. Also talking for my former colleagues coming from the same entrepreneurial heart, balancing, putting the business hat on versus the technical lead or the software development hat. It's a balance of, if I can put it in terms of project management, of balancing time, balancing the budget that is allocated for that specific project, and then balancing the technical depth and know-how. And that has, especially during the COVID restriction times, where I've onboarded myself onto the OpenStack platform, how to install it, how to maintain it, and that has definitely required a lot of my own after-hours time to invest into understanding it and seeing what potential business value is in it, and how to get it out versus keeping my time also productive for growing the business. And there is where our interactions with our clients, since we journey with our clients, become so important to us in delivering great service and great response times versus allocating time every month or every week in learning about the tools that the clients are using, and sharing that knowledge with the rest of the team, that it's sufficiently covered. So there's a very almost a daily balance that one needs to keep in mind of.
So many founders talk about balancing innovation with sustainability. What does that look like for you in the sort of DevOps and cloud space?
Sustainability, I would say, is definitely automating as much as possible. So finding the repetitive processes that we are either internally work through with. I think a big game changer was just in capturing our time. It's as simple as it's a simple thing, capturing time and allocating time to a project, yet having a central place where you can track what the team is spending their time on, and distributing it to the different tools that the clients might use in the billing. So that's one of the things that we decided to automate as much as possible so that the billing can go more smoothly. Or since we are in the DevOps space, very, very strong in the different tools that we use, it's automating the daily tasks of if one talks about traditional hosting, so how checking in on the health of the virtual machines and automating the regular cleanup tasks. And if one goes to the other side of the spectrum of maintaining the amount of virtual machines that are perhaps in a cluster, and cluster setups, that is also automated, so it saves a lot of time. And that is for the sustainability, and then the innovation is always coming with an open mind to the table. We do work closely together with the computer science department of the University of Pretoria, especially in their final year projects. We mentored 2 teams that were awarded prizes recently for their projects. But also having those innovative minds that also feed into the discussions that we have and the conversations, and it's definitely having an open heart and open mind.
So if we have a look at your managed monitoring layer, observatory, as you called it, how do you translate technical monitoring into business value for your clients?
Yeah, that is a super important question. How we translate it, if one compares it to driving one's car on the highway, the monitoring we provide is like having that dashboard of how many revolutions per minute the engine is running at, and the speedometer. So that's more or less the basic monitoring of a car. And when one removes that one removes those elements from the dashboard, so no speedometer or the rev counter, then one can only guess how the car's doing or how fast one travels. And that is how critical we see especially the application performance monitoring above the traditional monitoring. Traditional in our context is the usual CPU usage or RAM usage, and how much space the virtual machine is using. And application performance monitoring goes very much into it's like the rev counter of the application, how many requests per minute are coming in, what load is it putting onto the servers, and let's say there's a database cluster involved. How is the database cluster handling the requests, and how we translate it into business value. Business value can be identified either for the development team, seeing how their bug fixes or how new solutions that have implemented play out in the in a real world scenario, where they might have tested for 100 users on a single virtual machine versus in the real world where it's spiking at 2,000 concurrent users on a free node master setup. So it provides development or business value for them and for the management team or the executives. We pull out more the real user monitoring, which would be if it's a web-based application where an agent in the web browser would capture specific events, feed it back to the monitoring, and for the business person, they could see, okay, our users are looking at these sites, and some sites are a bit struggling a bit more, or others are performing better. And if I can use an example of a client of ours that are in the advertising space or the digital advertising space, they would look at how their campaigns are doing, and where they might be losing interest of a user from clicking on advertising to all the way down to the converting that user into a sign up to one of the products. And then they could see, okay, it's a problem further down in the pipeline or with a third party provider, and generally how their campaign is doing.
Got you. And I see that you're introducing a price calculator pretty soon. What's driving that shift towards greater transparency?
It is a shift to where we want to grow our client base. So we are looking into automating as much as possible. So putting the building blocks into place to go to a self-service portal. That's our aim. And another driver is the need for clients to see, okay, what is the actual cost going to be of a virtual machine, of this custom virtual machine, or the custom container. And yeah, it's one of our values of our company is to be transparent. So that's also how we handle incidents, is being very transparent, and that transparency we want to also put through our monitoring in how the virtual machine is impacted. And
what would you say makes pricing so complex in this space?
Yes, pricing is a very interesting beast, where it's a balance of covering our base costs, especially since we do run at 2 data centers. How to cover the costs of the data center, and looking at the variable costs from the price of diesel, because in the end the data center needs to also cover their costs to maintain a certain standard, especially with backup power, and that has fluctuated a lot over the past 2 or 3 years, as electricity prices have increased, and as well as we are building towards being an internet service provider. It's also covering the costs for the interconnectivity between the different partners that we do have in the ISP space. And above that, ensuring that that we budget for growth in the infrastructure as we build out and scale our data centers, that we always have an aim to grow our infrastructure and maintain it so that it does not age and keeps more to contemporary hardware.
Got you. And Richard, how would you say that most of your clients are finding you? Is it through referrals? Is it partnerships? Is it inbound content, outbound content?
Yeah, it's very much through word of mouth. So through the partners that we do have, and driving also now through marketing in the specific spaces that we are interested in offering services to. So the entrepreneurs or the small to medium enterprises. And what we do find a challenge is building up that trust that we do offer enterprise level hosting. And we might be a small South African company, yet we aim to reach for the stars.
Yeah. And what's working best for you from an awareness perspective? You mentioned sort of marketing campaigns yielding results. What are the channels you're using to drive attention?
Drive attention, it would be through channels like LinkedIn, posting content and creating a movement and a community. So one of the thoughts that we are playing with is a community-driven cloud. So it's more or less a friend referral type of program. The more signups we get, the more cheaper the average virtual machine cost gets. And a community-driven cloud would also enable, since we do have a strong software-defined network backing, that we can create a lot of virtual interconnects. And in that way, the community can, when they're on board on our platform, can easily connect their services with each other if they want to use each other's services. So keeping the comms more secure as we provide tunneling and other technologies to connect them. And that's more of an idea that we are playing around with. And otherwise it's through building trust with our current clients and growing their hosting presence, and they often refer us to others, or others to us.
Got you. So, I mean, you speak about your current clients. I'd imagine that retention is huge in the managed services space. What makes your clients stay with you?
It's the personal the personal touch that we add, and going beyond in what we are capable of. So it's we always up for a good challenge. We have often been faced, especially with the security or with the cybersecurity crisis that we do face. We do accept challenges of coming alongside clients that have already been compromised or are in a bad space, and with the tooling or infrastructure as code tooling that we do have, we can quickly get a new cluster up for them, recover the data, and assist with if there are any forensic needs or cybersecurity needs. We do come alongside them and might involve others as well. That's on the one side, and on the other side, it's time is always and a good uptime is always good to keep, and that's where the transparency comes in. Is when something happens, let's say a network outage, we quickly nail down on where it exactly is, provide feedback according to the technical know-how or knowledge level of the client, unless they request a more detailed approach. And the open mind that we do keep in coming alongside from a professional services perspective. We almost become part of the team for at our clients. If I can use the example of a big client of ours, we have been running their operations for the past 10 years. We are part of their team, and provide them with good in-depth as advisors, and can quickly jump into their systems to support it, and in end effect, we grow their business with them as partners.
Got you. And Richard, if we look at Southern Cross as a whole, zoom out and look at the business, what would you say is working really well within the company at the moment? What's
working really well is the automation and maintaining that suite of the infrastructure as code scripts that we've developed over the last 8 years, and the regression tests that we also need to revise every now and then as technology changes, as the software changes, and above that, having a well built out QA testing in environment specifically for the hosting platform, that when we want to onboard a new technology or offering, we do go through good amount of testing, so the QA environments do simulate or come very, very close to what we have got deployed in the data centers, so that when there is an issue, we can quickly pick it up, test it in QA, and roll it out to the data center without affecting uptime for the clients. And over the past few years, we have built out a monitoring solution, and also saw how we can drive down the cost of the offering. As monitoring, as you can imagine, produces a lot of data that needs to be stored, and that also needs to be accessed or quickly accessed. We are not on some slower storage, but needs to be on a SSD or higher level of performance. And from a team dynamics, we do experience that the small cross-functional teams and the collaboration between them definitely makes us very nimble and quick to respond to different scenarios. And from a cultural perspective, it's having a culture of not blaming. So learning from our mistakes, having retrospectives on them, and growing from the mistakes, so that it doesn't happen again. And yeah, some big mistakes were made in the past that could have ended up in bigger outages, but knowing and having that intuition where how to respond in those critical in the critical seconds, and divert quickly to stabilizing and recovering. And that is where we see ourselves as strong performers in not screaming at each other and playing the blame game, but stabilizing the situation, getting out of the fire, and having a talk over, or having a retrospective over coffee, and learning from that and how to recover from that. And through these scenarios and through each challenge that we have gone through, we grow as individuals and as a team.
And Richard, I always like to ask on the flip side of that question, what's not working well within the company at the moment?
Yeah, so a big challenge, especially since we are in the open source space, is the communities around the open source products or open source software need to be well supported by its members. So when we initially chose a deployment approach of OpenStack, that community seemed to be stable, but after a few years, it has shrunk to a space where they've decided to decommission that specific project. So it's a deployment tool for OpenStack, and that has put us in a very tricky situation in how do we manage that migration of existing OpenStack instances to a different deployment tool without downtime to our clients and without any data loss, and remaining and having high availability still available, so that we don't risk any downtime. So that has been a challenge, basically selecting an open source community that is growing. And we took some time to just really research into a different community that is more on a growth rate than on a decline, and that is also supported and trusted by other companies that are in the private sectors. So we did find one and are currently migrating between those two approaches. So that's has been a challenge for the company. And what we also find is that remote working, so we are a fully virtualized company, meaning all our employees are working from home or from a shared office space. And that has also been a challenge in how to bring that bond between team members, that they can understand each other, trust each other, and keep with the small team concept of almost being at war together in that sense, so that when an incident does happen, we can understand the other person if they're currently incapacitated to handle an incident, or if they and quickly take over, or vice versa. And also from a client relationship perspective, we do like to meet up with our clients to show face and to understand our clients where they're at. And that is sometimes also a challenge in keeping that client relationship going strong, and not just being in the background as a hosting provider. So that is then feeding back into the client retention.
And Richard, looking ahead, what's next for Southern Cross Solutions?
Yeah, so what's next is so we are on a drive to building out our client base at a rapid scale. So from a technology perspective, putting in the hard work to automate as much as possible and to get to a self-service portal. So that would be coming up in the next year. And building out our offering to keep in step with the contemporary hosting, but also to be at the bleeding edge, such as the Unikernels, those types of technologies, and building out also to a platform as a service to offer even more cheaper hosting and or more affordable hosting, better said. And on the monitoring side, also building out that offering. And from a platform perspective, or the current platform perspective, it's then migrating between the two different approaches, while keeping the high availability going as well as the client uptime. So minimal impact, and that is always a big challenge, and something to where one can only take a deep breath, prepare as much as possible, and then execute on that runbook.
And Richard, if our listeners and viewers want to connect with you and the broader team at Southern Cross Solutions, where's the best place for them to do that?
The best place would be on LinkedIn, or through our website, or dropping us an email. Then we can be in touch quickly, either via a phone call or grabbing a quick coffee.
Amazing. Well, Richard, thanks so much for being on the podcast today. It's been an interesting conversation, diving into Southern Cross Solutions, looking at some of the inner workings, but then also talking about what your future aspirations are. I appreciate your time, and thanks for being on.
Yeah, thanks, Lawrence. Thanks also for the opportunity.
That's it for today's episode of the Aegance Offscript Podcast. If this conversation sparked something, a thought, a question, or a new way of seeing your own business, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below. We'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.